So very, very good morning to all of you and a very, very happy new year. Today, as we start with deductions of gross total income, another step closer to our understanding of computation of total income, I wish you all a very good luck for the year which is about to come. There are a lot of dreams to be fulfilled and a lot of hopes to be gathered. So all the very best for the year to come. So please settle in and then we can start for today's class. If you have any questions from the previous class, please feel free to ask. For next 1-2 minutes, we can just dedicate the time to understand what we are going to read today or what we have already understood. So if there are any doubts, please do not hesitate to come with. Thank you so much, everyone, for your well wishes. Good morning, Kiran, Pooja, Akrima, Ajay, everyone. Swati, correct. When both husband and wife have substantial interest in the company, and it can be because they say the assessee along the individual along with relative and relative में spouse आता है. So it can be very natural that both husband and wife are having the substantial interest. I gave you an example also. A has say 13% and B has say 15%. So they are having a substantial interest both combined. Then you have to see who is getting salary and who is getting that salary without qualification. If both of them are getting salary without any qualification, then it has to be clubbed in the income of the person who has higher income excluding this salary. Okay, excluding this salary. Test your knowledge. Srinivasan, can you please remind me the same thing at around 9:20:25 so that before ending the class today, I can take your test your knowledge question. But please remind me towards the end of the class, 9:20:25. I'll definitely take it up. Chalo, great. So now the three classes which are there from today, as in Tuesday, Thursday, and next Tuesday, is all about deductions from gross total income. I cannot go on and emphasize that how this important this particular chapter is, because obviously no question of computation of total income is complete without deductions. You can definitely have deductions ka altogether separate question in the sense of MCQ or maybe in the sense of a 2 marker, 5 marker, because this chapter in itself is extremely important and forget about exams also, but this chapter is something which will test your knowledge off and on in your practical life also. As in from now on, everyone will look up to tax how to help them out in tax saving, correct? How to help them a person out in tax saving, and this knowledge of this particular chapter will help you understand all those provisions. Obviously it's a long journey to give someone advice on, but the first step is understanding deductions from gross total income. So before we proceed, uh, can I just ask you a few things about what do you mean by deduction or exemption? Are both the things same or are they interchangeable? I can use deduction also and exemption also. What is your understanding about deductions and what is your understanding about exemption? What do one mean that what is deductions from gross total income? What does actually deductions mean? Come on, give it a try. Don't worry. Both are different. Very good. Exemption is not included in the deduction income, and deduction is included, then deducted. Okay, Manish, fair enough. Very good. Exemptions are not included in GTI while deduction is deducted from GTI. Very good, Subhashini. Prince has also given exemption is allowable to full amount, deductions are allowable up to some extent. Okay, okay. So these are quite a lot correct answer. Now, exactly this is what deductions means. So deduction is something, exemption is both of them are condition based. I'll not say they're not condition based. Exemption is when a certain part of the income or the income, या तो पूरा income या थोड़ा सा part of the income is exempt. That is, it is not included in the total income. It is not included in the total income. So we now understand, and I remember telling you in the first class also, you actually start with computation of income under 5 heads, then you do clubbing provisions, and then you do set of provisions. After that, you come to your gross total income. After that, you come to your gross total income. Now, these 5 heads, there are certain incomes which are fully taxable, there are certain incomes which are partially taxable, which are partially exempt, or certain incomes which are totally exempt. So, one has to clearly understand that that part of income would not be taxed at all. So it would not be included in my gross total income at all, or in the respective heads of income at all. For example, if I give an example of HRA, HRA may a certain part, house rent allowance, a certain part of it is exempt, or sometimes full part of it gets exempt. So that is called income not included in the total income of assessee, and those exemptions are catered through majorly section 10. Section 10 has different clauses and a multiple clauses of income which are not taxable or taxable to a or not taxable to a certain extent. Okay? So they are never included in my these particular heads of income, and hence are not included in my gross total income. Now deductions, as you say, if I say deductions from gross total income means, and you have income, you give it to the tax, as in you computed the component of taxability on it. Now, once it is included in your gross total income, then you give deductions in general from your gross total income. So, exemptions basically have an impact while computing gross total income, and deductions are something which you calculate, or which you do, or the step comes after you have computed your GTI, which is your gross total income. These are again condition based and come under chapter 6A. Chapter 6A. Abhi chapter 6A is not your book ka chapter. Chapter 6A of Income Tax Act 1961. So वहां पे भी the entire act is divided into chapters, and this particular chapter you should remember because the reference of this chapter comes n number of times during the entire income tax. So chapter 6A में लिखा हुआ है my deductions from gross total income, and this section goes from 80A to 80U, but deductions basically goes from 80C to 80U. Okay. Also, there is another deduction which comes from gross total income, which was earlier being taught. If you have read these chapters earlier, it was part of your chapter income not included, total income not included in total income of SSC, but now it has been moved to this deduction particular chapter, which is section 10AA deduction. Now, this is also a separate deduction which is given on certain profits, which we'll understand as we proceed. So there are majorly two deductions coming from gross total income. One is covered under chapter 6A and another is covered under section 10AA. Yes, having said that, you must be having questions in your mind, ma'am. Deductions, so we get in salary also under section 16, deductions we get in house property income under section 24, deductions we get in obviously your while you're computing your PGBP income, definitely you get deductions there. Those deductions are basically for that particular head. Usme bhi, once you tax the entire income which should be there in that particular head, after that you reduce that deduction amount. So that is totally fine. Those deductions are for that particular heads and hence are covered under those heads. Okay, so now when we proceed about deductions and exemptions, you should have a clarity. Exemption is a certain part of income which is not getting taxed, which does not form part of gross total income, and deduction is something which we compute once we compute once we calculate a gross total income. And these are also a reduction in the gross total income, but in general from the total gross total income, not respective to a certain heads of income. When I talk about chapter 6A, got it? Now, guys, earlier teaching deductions, etc., was simple because there was section 115 BAC, which was a general standby section for people to opt or not to opt. But now, section 115 BAC, as you all know, is a mandatory section in the sense it's a default section. I'll not say mandatory, it's a default section that until and unless you make a decision to not choose it, this would apply. Make a decision to opt out of it and go to normal provision of tax exchange, section 115 BAC would apply by default. But when I talk about section 115 BAC, there are certain exemptions which are not available, as you have seen in salary head also, like house rent allowance, leave travel allowance, special allowances, some certain special allowances based on expenditure. But there are also certain deductions which are not allowed. These deduction goes from section 80C to 80U in major. Only 3-4 deductions out of the entire sections from 80C to 80U, only 3-4 deductions are allowed, which I'll tell you when we do also. One is 80CCD subsection 2, one is 80CCH, and one is your 80JJAA, and one more is there which is not relevant for you. So we'll do it when this particular section will come. I'll tell you only these deduction or only this much amount of deduction is available to section 115 BAC SSCs. Otherwise, no deductions from gross total income is available to section 115 BAC SSC. Got it? Now, before again we dive deep into different sections of deduction, because each deduction ka section is there starting from section 80C to 80U, and we will cover one by one. We will see what is the condition for it, to whom it is allowed, what amount is allowed. So before we proceed, obviously I want you to make a chart of your own, but let's discuss more about deductions. First of all, guys, remember deductions की वजह से never ever your gross total income would be converted to a loss. I mean to say that deductions cannot be more than my gross total income. It can be up to my gross total income, but in no situation it can be more than my gross total income. Yes, if there is loss, then you will not get deductions at all. If your gross total income itself is a gross total loss, you will not get deductions at all. But suppose gross total income is 4 lakhs, you cannot claim deductions of 4,20,000. Maximum deduction allowed would be under various sections. Some at all would be allowed to be only to the extent of gross total income. And here carry forward concept does not matter, come into picture. You will say कि ma'am last class में आपने बताया था, if I have certain losses and the income is not sufficient to set it off, to adjust it off, we carry it forward, correct? But deductions में ऐसा नहीं होगा. Deductions would not be carried forwarded in an extent कि suppose I have 4 lakh ka loss, or say 4 lakh ka income, and I have 4,20,000 ka deductions. I cannot say 20,000, I will claim it next year. That is absurd to say. Deductions would be allowed from gross total income of that particular year only to the extent of gross total income. Then there are certain deductions which you will see are, or general deductions, which are deductions under chapter 6A, are not allowed on certain special income. Like you do not get deductions on your casual income. Similarly, you do not get your deductions under section 112, which is long-term capital gain tax at 20%. It is not allowed under section 112A, which is long-term capital gain for sale of equity, listed equity shares, equity-oriented mutual funds, and units of business trust. Similarly, it is not allowed on the short-term capital gain of listed equity shares, equity-oriented mutual funds, and your units of business trust. So, उन दोनों के long term and short term पे नहीं मिलेगा, because these are taxed at special rate of 10% in excess of 1 lakh. This is taxed at 20% and this is taxed at 15%. Also, in general, if you can remember, special its income पे कभी deductions नहीं मिलते. So even if in my gross total income, suppose my gross total income includes 1 lakh of salary and 2 lakhs of capital gain under section 112, and I have deductions available. So that makes my gross total income to be 3 lakhs. I have deductions available to the extent of 1,50,000. I can only claim to the extent of 1 lakh. Why, guys? Because I cannot claim deductions on my special rate income. Got it? Okay, this you also have to remember. Now, as we proceed, you will see that deductions are categorized into different heads. Just 1 second. Under different headings. Deductions under Chapter 6, as I told you, from ATC to ETU, are categorized on two major different headings, I should say. Some are payment based. Payment based, that is when an assessee during a year would do a certain expenditure or certain investment. Certain expenditure or certain investment, he will get that deductions. Okay. You can see that these are very small. If I zoom it, the chart will go away. Don't worry, we'll do it one by one. So, these are certain payments with, यानी अगर एसएससी ने एक साल में कुछ certain expenditure किया होगा और certain expense investment किया होगा, only then these would be allowed. Starting from ATC, and we'll see what all are allowed. Payment based. Then there are certain income based. Dono I'm covering. Income based means if in my gross total income a certain type of income is included, then only I will get these deductions. Then only I will get these deductions. अगर gross total income में वो income नहीं है, I will not be eligible for these deduction, and one is the other category. ठीक है, so these are independent three categories. Certain incomes may actually these sections start from section 80IA and onwards, but most of them are covered at your final level. Certain incomes where we are only covering these three types of deductions. Off and on, again and again, I will be repeating all the same things. You will get it slowly and slowly in your head. Don't worry about it. Okay? So, या तो payment based होगा या income based होगा. First, today we'll start with payment based. And section 10AA, guys, we'll do towards the end of this chapter. First, when we have done all deductions under chapter 6A. Before we proceed, guys, I told you payment based or income based. Income based generally comes, certain income based generally come under heading C. मतलब heading B में payment based आते हैं, heading C में income based आते हैं of chapter 6 से. ठीक है? So 80AC is one such section. If I ask if a question from you whether to claim deductions, listen carefully, whether to claim deductions from gross total income, is it mandatory to file return on time? That is return within the due date. मतलब अगर मैं late return file करूंगी, will I not be able to claim deductions? So the answer is yes and no both. So as I told you, there are certain, I'll say it like this, chapter 6A में, there are certain deductions which are payment based. Then there are deductions which are certain incomes based, and then there is other income based. ठीक है? हाँ पहले 1 second, guys. Payment chapter 6 में, I'll write it here. Payment based, certain income based, and other income based. ठीक है? और एक other deductions है. So The one which is based on certain income, that comes under heading C of chapter 6 से. ये ABC नहीं है, ये A is general provisions, B is about deductions on payment, C is about certain income. Why I'm telling you this? Because guys, when you will be reading all this, you do not get confused that what is the relatability factors. ठीक है? So certain incomes में, which is coming under heading C, वो वाली deductions, if you want to claim, you have to file the return within due date. If I file the return late, I will not get these deductions. Certain incomes wali, ठीक है, which starts from ATIA. The list is there. I'll show you. You don't have to remember the names of these deductions. You have to remember that ATIA onwards to ATRRB are the deductions which are not allowed if the return is not filed within the due date. Late return का concept होता है, उसमें अगर आप file करोगे, you will not get these deductions. ठीक है? What about these? These you can claim whenever you file the return, whether on time or whether late. Only certain income wale deduction which comes in heading C, of chapter 6A, those would only be allowed when you file the return within due date. Okay, so now I hope the understanding of the deductions from gross total income has taken a flight and now you know where we are heading to. Before we start with the first deduction, does anyone has any doubts? Okay, let's see what are the doubts. Yes, Harindra, first you talk about your gross total income, then you reduce the deduction, and then you come to your total taxable income, and then you apply the tax. Basically, then you have to see what is your basic exemption limit, etc. Rehan, it's a wrong way to say, are we eligible? Eligible, nahi, you will say, are we liable to pay tax if we have gross loss? So if you see, your entire income would be either zero or positive because losses would be carry forwarded. Losses would be carry forwarded. And when it's a pure loss situation, you're not required to pay taxes until unless you have some special rate incomes, which do not set off the taxes or until unless you have restrictions of like capital gain, etc., which and at anyhow is making a positive gross total income. Guys, Srinivasan, please hold your horses. We have not started with ATC to ATU. ये 1,50,000 वाला कुछ concept नहीं है. Just remember, when we are opting for your default tax regime, you will not get deductions which we are discussing from now onwards. जहाँ पे भी those deductions are available to 115 BAC, I will alarm you out कि हाँ guys, ये deductions are available. Only this part of deductions are available. Otherwise, those deductions are not available. Got it, guys? कोई doubt है in case of exemptions, deductions? Very good, you people have attended. First, you will compute your income from different heads. Then you will give the clubbing impact, if any income is to be included. Then you will do set of carry forwards. And then you will come to the gross total income. Correct. Casual income is also special rate income. There are no deductions available from it. Swati, you will come to the provisions of who compulsory has to file the return of income slowly. उसका अलग से प्रोविजंस है सारे. सेक्शन 139 आप कंपल्सरी फाइलिंग ऑफ रिटर्न करोगे. यू विल डू इट इन दिस मंथ ओनली. सो विल गेट टू नो अबाउट इट. ठीक है गाइस, आगे बढ़े. लेट्स स्टार्ट. गिव मी योर ग्रीन सिग्नल के ओके नाउ वी कैन स्टार्ट मैम. Perfect. Thank you, Almas. Okay. So one way to understand the first section, which is ATC. From now onwards, students, what you'll do, you'll prepare a self chart which will tell me deductions. कैसे चार्ट बनाओगे? बहुत सिंपल तरीके से सेक्शन, नेचर ऑफ डिडक्शन साथ साथ करोगे क्योंकि याद रहेगा. Eligibility, that who is allowed, eligible assessee, you can write. Quantum and other points. Okay, you will prepare this chart once we will, or you can do this as an homework and you can revise the sections which are covered today. Okay, so first section is section 80C, deduction respect of investments in specified assets. First of all, guys, एक चीज याद रखना, wherever the government has given us certain benefits in the form of deductions or otherwise, the main aim for them is to match their vision. Match their vision मतलब मैम क्या government, what does government want? Government wants that people should have properties, people should have infrastructure, people should be self-contributing for their futures, people should have their retirement funds planned, people should have their pension plans, people should have investment options, etc., etc. So to induce us कि हम ये सब काम करें, to induce us to do such things, they give us benefits in the form of deductions. They give us benefits in the form of deductions so that we are induced or we are lured to do such types of investment. So Section 80C is one of the most common tax saving investment option. I think I don't know anyone who is filing the returns of income for years and have not claimed Section 80C. This is not available to the people who are opting for default tax regime. That is, this would only be available if you are opting out of the default tax regime and paying tax as per the normal tax provisions. Okay. Now, Section 80C contains a list of different types of options in which I can invest. The list is huge. There's list from LIC to your mutual funds to your tuition fees, etc., etc. It's not compulsory that one person has to invest in certain type of certain type of investment only or certain type of expenditure only. It is up to them to make certain types of combination, totally up to them to get the deduction under Section 80C, which is up to maximum of 1,50,000. So the quantum here, which is maximum allowed, is 1,50,000. I may invest in different options, which I'll discuss, but the maximum deduction in total I can get is 1,50,000. Ma'am, can a person do more of such investments? Yes. Abhi, we will see the list. He can have investments for more than 1,50,000, but it would be allowed only to the extent of 150. कौन सा allow होगा? It is totally up to you to decide. This section is only allowed to, first of all, only to individuals and HUF. Please write it here. Only to individuals and HUF, be it resident or non-resident, does not matter. It's only allowed on actual payment basis. That is, if during the year I'm making this particular type of payment, only then I will be allowed. ऐसा नहीं है कि if it is due during the year but I've paid in the next year, I can claim the deduction. No. If the actual payment has happened during the year, then only it would be allowed. So before we understand the list of certain types of deductions which are available here, certain types of investment options which you can make an investment in and claim 80C, I just want to tell you people, either one approach is that in the next 5 minutes, I can tell you the list and finish 80C. But since I want you all to be more reality check independent, as in I want you all to be independent to understand these particular types of investment and make a choice in your future, we will devote certain 15-20 minutes to understand different plans, because I know this is first time for you to understand certain terms or might be hearing certain terms. So I'll tell you what are these terms about. I'll give you a small gist of knowledge about it. Okay, practically what is this, so that now you are more informed. Okay, so again, 80C mein, there are multiple types of options which are available. Deduction is allowed under this section to the maximum extent of 150 to individual HUF and on actual payment basis. Okay, one by one, I'll be picking up what type of options are available, and then we'll discuss about it. Okay? Okay, guys? Chalo, great. सबसे पहले, the most common one which I want to do is premium in respect of life insurance policy. अभी हम क्या कर रहे हैं गाइस, 80C के ऑप्शंस डिस्कस कर रहे हैं कि 80C में क्या क्या अवेलेबल है. ठीक है, प्रीमियम इन रिस्पेक्ट ऑफ लाइफ इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी. इंश्योरेंस, अगेन, इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी लाइफ इंश्योरेंस होती है, मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस होती है, जनरल इंश्योरेंस होती है. तीनों में फर्क पता है? डू यू नो द डिफरेंस बिटवीन लाइफ इंश्योरेंस, मेडिकल एंड जनरल इंश्योरेंस? People will look up to you to understand now. What do you mean by life insurance, medical or health insurance, or your general insurance? What do you one mean by the meaning of these? Namika, 80C only for individual HF. Okay, guys, answer. तो गाइस एक चीज याद रखना, इंश्योरेंस, मेनी ऑफ यू माइट नॉट नो, इंश्योरेंस को कंटिन्यू करने के लिए एवरी ईयर यू पे प्रीमियम्स होते हैं. Premium is an amount which you pay as a contribution to continuity of insurance. But what does these three different insurance means? तो सी अमाउंट नाम से ही पता चलता है. इंश्योरेंस क्या होता है? कवरेज होता है इन रिस्पेक्ट ऑफ सर्टेन इवेंट्स. करेक्ट. लाइफ इंश्योरेंस का मतलब है एंड insurance which covers the life. Covers the life means, God forbid, if something happens to someone, a certain amount is given to the legal hire of the insured person. Okay. That is called life insurance, where you are protecting the uncertainty which might cause from death. Okay. Then there is health insurance or medical insurance. This insurance is done for the health of the person. That means if suppose someday or the other a person needs some medical treatment, then through this insurance cover, they can cover their medical treatment expenses. This is called health insurance. And then there is general insurance like theft, like car insurance, etc. These are there for that particular, or stock insurance. These are there for that particular asset and for certain types of incidences. Okay. Life insurance is covered under 80C, health insurance is covered under section 80D, and general insurance is not covered anywhere. I don't want my students to don't understand what does life insurance means. Okay. So now life insurance policy में क्या होगा? There is certain sum assured which you will get on its maturity. So every insurance policy has a certain, when I talk about life insurance policy, there is term insurance and there is endowment plans. So you have to make a contribution to a certain years and then that coverage is secured. So there is a some term called capital sum assured, a term called capital sum assured. This is technically an amount which you will get on your maturity, or a minimum amount at least which you will get on maturity. कि इतना amount assured है कि आपको मिलेगा. This amount is assured that you will get. So यहाँ पे deduction guys capital sum assured की नहीं हो रही, because you have to understand yourself as assessee. You will not get capital sum assured. That has to be seen whether it is taxable or not. What is being discussed here is that you will get a deduction. Deduction of what? Deductions of investment. Investment in life insurance policy is through premium. So the deduction here is for the premium which you pay during the year for your life insurance policy. Now, here you have to remember one thing, that premium should not be exorbitant. Ma'am, matlab, so the premium guys should be to a certain degree of capital sum assured. If I'm getting a certain amount, say 3 lakhs at the end of the policy, then the premium should be a certain percentage every year. It should not be more than that. It should not be more than that. So, question if which will come to you is to check first whether the premium is within the range which is written under section 80C or not. If it is not, then you will not allow it as deduction. Okay. But ma'am, okay, we understood that there is life insurance policy for the insurance of life, etc., etc. This Who is making those contributions? Either the individual or the HUF. So individual can take the policy in his name, his spouse name, or his child name, whether dependent or not. Matlab, I can pay the premium for my child life insurance policy and claim deduction. I can pay the premium for my wife or my husband child life insurance policy and claim the deduction, or I can pay the premium for my life insurance policy and claim the deduction. Okay, and either HUF किसका life insurance कराएगा अपने members का, and they can claim the deduction on it. Got it? I'm going slowly, and I hope you are getting the gist of it. So, what do we have to remember is that what check do we have to see that the premium should be a certain percentage of my capital sum assured. If it is more than that, then it would not be allowed. Now, what are those certain percentage? So, it depends upon when the policy is taken. Policy सालों साल चलती है, guys. So, the policy is taken before 1st April 2012, or it is taken after 1st April 2012. Okay, if it is taken before 1st April 2012, then my premium can be up to 20% of capital sum assured. If the policy is taken after 1st April 2012, then the premium can be only up to 10% of capital sum assured. Only up to 10% of your capital sum assured. But यहाँ पे एक thing है specifically specified diseases and disabled लोगों के लिए they are taking policies. तो उनके लिए if the policy is taken after 1st April 2013, 15% premium up to 15% of capital sum assured is allowed. I'm not saying itna would be allowed. I'm saying only up to this amount is allowed. If my premium is less, then lesser amount would be allowed. If my premium is more, you have to make a check of 20%, 10%, and 15%. Let's do the question and you will get to understand it. अब यहाँ पे एक सामने क्वेश्चन है मेरे पास. Compute the eligible deduction under section 80C for assessment year 24-25 in respect of life insurance premium paid by whom? Paid by Mr. Ganesh during the previous year, which are given here under. Okay, he has not opted for default tax regime. Guys, remember, agar question kuch nahi clearly likha about in the question, give your assumption that what you are assuming, whether the person has claimed 115 BAC, is opting for 115 BAC, is not opting for 115 BAC. Okay, now coming to this particular क्वेश्चन. उन्होंने सेल्फ के लिए लाइफ इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी लिया जिसका कैपिटल सम एश्योर्ड इज 8 lakhs. Insurance premium जा रहा है 48,000. The first thing I have to check is when this policy was issued. The policy was issued before 1st April 2012. So the premium which is allowed is 20%. The premium which is allowed is 20%. So in this case, what would be the premium? 20% of 8 lakhs comes to 1,60,000. So naturally, the premium of 48,000 completely is eligible for claiming deduction under 80C. So I'll write here eligible amount. So pura ka pura 48,000 is eligible. Why? Because it is within the 20% limit. Why I'm taking 20%? Because the policy was issued before 1st April 2012. Now the policy for spouse is taken after 1st April 2012. So the premium restriction here is, guys, 10%. Now in this case, for the policy of 1,50,000, for a policy of 1,50,000 as capital assured, the premium paid is 20,000. But the maximum premium which would allowed is 10%. So here what would be allowed is 15,000. What is eligible to be allowed under CTC is 15,000. Handicapped son ke liye, the disabled son, policy is taken after 1st April 2013. Maximum premium is at the rate of 15%. So 4 lakh का 15% guys 60,000 होते हैं. So the maximum premium which would be allowed here is 60,000. The total premium which is allowed in the three policies is 48,000, 15,000 and 60,000, which comes to 1,23,000 is allowed as deduction under Section 80C for life insurance premium paid by assessee who is Ganesh. If Ganesh would have been paying life insurance premium for his brother, will be allowed as deduction? No, because brother के लिए pay करना is not allowed as deduction. And obviously, if I'm claiming the deductions, यहाँ पे जो payer है, who that person will claim the deduction. The spouse cannot claim the same deduction under 80C under her return. Okay? Guys, is it clear now? कोई doubt है? एक बारी quickly देखो, then I'll come to another amount or another type of investment option available under Section 80C. It's good that you all know about insurances. Very good. Correct, Swati. If the total of all the premium crosses 1,53,000, crosses 1,50,000, in your example, as you said, 153, the maximum deduction allowed would be 150. Nagarjun, see, two dates you have to remember. One is before 1st April 2012 and another is after 1st April 2012. Before, in general, for people who have taken before 1st April 2012, it is 20%, otherwise it is 10%. But if I talk about handicap, for them, the limit was increased from 10 to 15% from 1st April 2013. If a person is handicapped, then and he has taken policy on or after 1st April 2013, premium which is eligible is 15% of capital sum assured. But suppose a handicap has taken policy between 1st April 2012 and 1st April or before 31st March or on before 31st March 2013, then he would get only 10%. Okay. So you have to see the category of person also. And इस पे जनरली गाइस क्वेश्चन आता ही आता है, ये चेक पॉइंट होता ही है. नो वन would tell you have to check it. You have to see what is capital sum assured, what is my premium amount, and what is the issuing date of policy. Capital sum assured in general, guys, is a minimum amount which you will get when the policy matures. Because it is taken, Manish, because it is taken before 1st April 2012 now, so 20% premium is allowed. Okay, so the next investment options available for everyone under Section 80C is unit linked insurance plan. तो आप बोलोगे मैम यूनिट लिंक्ड इंश्योरेंस प्लान मतलब इसमें नाम क्या है, यूनिट लिंक्ड इंश्योरेंस प्लान. यहाँ पे भी यू आर पेइंग प्रीमियम्स एंड यहाँ पे भी द सेम चेक गोस, बट गाइस यहाँ पे द नेम इज यूलिप. यूलिप कहते हैं यूनिट लिंक्ड इंश्योरेंस प्लान को, चाहे वो LIC का हो या UTI का हो. यूलिप मतलब यूनिट लिंक्ड इंश्योरेंस प्लान. I am making a certain contribution towards this plan, जिसमें से a certain amount goes to units as an investment and certain amount goes to insurance. So it's a very good amount to invest in because here I get two benefits. One benefit is of insurance cover and another benefit is of investment. Because suppose I'm making a certain contribution towards this ULIP for say 10,000 rupees. Okay, now from this 10,000, as per the plan, maybe say 2,000 is used for investment and 7,000 is a premium, or sorry, 8,000 is a premium which I'm paying for the life insurance cover. It's a combined plan of ULIPs, UTIs के चल रहे हैं, LIC के चल रहे हैं, which are allowed here as deduction. Got it? Again, यहाँ पे I can get these plans for myself, for my spouse or my dependent children, dependent or not. Next is the concept of deferred annuity. ये guys ये सब कुछ 1,50,000 के under allowed है only. So all of these combined should not be more than 150. Deferred annuity. Deferred annuity क्या होता है? It's again a sort of retirement plans which are allowed basically. यहाँ पे again you make a contribution during a certain time and after a certain period you get that sum back in a certain annual amount, in a certain annual amount. It can be done for by individual, for his spouse or for his children or for himself. HUF के लिए deferred annuity का concept नहीं है. ठीक? So you will see यहाँ पे HUF के लिए deferred annuity का concept नहीं है. Then the most common one is everyone's favorite, provident funds. Provident funds में guys, as you all know, there are four types of provident funds. One is statutory provident fund, one is public provident fund, one is recognized provident fund, and one is unrecognized provident fund. So whatever contribution you're making, अब यहाँ पे अपने आपको क्या समझना है? The person who is making the contribution, that is the assessee. For all those all this, you have to understand that you are the person who is making such investments, correct? So if you are a person who is making a contribution into a public provident fund, you will get a deduction under section 80C. Public provident fund कोई भी खोल सकता है. I can open it for myself, for my spouse or for my children. One account is allowed only. This I can open through any bank, etc. or simply directly going to the site. ठीक है. URPF में when as an employee I'm contributing to a recognized provident fund, 80C is not allowed. But if I'm making a contribution as an employee to a recognized provident fund, 80C is allowed. Employer contribution के impact guys salaries में आते हैं, which I will not go into. ठीक है. Similarly, statutory provident fund may, as an employee of central government or statutory corporations or for High Court or a Supreme Court, I make contributions to SPF. So as an employee, if I'm making contributions to SPF, that is allowed under 80C. So 80C में क्या क्या आया? SPF, PPF and RPF. Got it? Great. Then another type of eligible deduction under section 80C is contributions to superannuation fund, SAF. Again, this is sort of a retirement fund planned by the employer. Employer also make a contribution and employee also make a contribution. We're talking about employee contribution as an assessee contribution. So superannuation fund में if I'm making a contribution, it would be allowed. So अभी तक हमने क्या पढ़ा? Deferred annuity, insurances, life insurance policy, unit linked insurance planned, then your PPF, RPF, SPF, and superannuation fund. Another contribution which is allowed as deduction under section 80C is contribution every year to Sukanya Samriddhi account. Now, this is a very recent scheme introduced for promoting the girl child and for having a secured fund for the wedding and education of a girl child. ठीक है, इसमें क्या होता है? The parents or the legal guardian, they go and open an account in the name of girl child. और ये थोड़ा सा जल्दी करना पड़ता है, ये information आपको नहीं मिलेगी guys, please focus. Parents of the legal guardian open an account with the bank under the Sukanya Samriddhi account. Okay, it's like an account where you start with a minimum contribution of 250 rupees. Okay, you open an account in the name of the girl child, and ये आपको उसकी 10 years of age से पहले करना है. You have to do it before the girls attain the age of 10, and you can open this account for maximum of 2 girl child. So if I have 3 girl child, I can only open account and I can open account for everyone, but I can take a benefit only up to 2 girl child under section 80C. Okay. Now, the moment I'll open this account, whatever deposits I'm making during the year in this account would be allowed as deduction under section 80C because the deposits are made to Sukanya Samriddhi account. Generally, इसका maturity guys बहुत late होता है, 15 years या when the girl attains the age of 21. Then this particular thing gets matured. Next is national savings certificates. Guys, government some time or the other They issue certain types of certificates in which you can invest. You get a good return of somewhere between 8 to 9%. And this subscription which you make to the National Savings Certificate, this is an eighth issue which is going on, is allowed as deduction under ATC. Then there are annuity plans of LIC. बहुत सारे plans हैं where a person can take a policy in his own name. यहाँ पे खाली ओन नेम है, जहाँ पे भी स्पाउस के लिए वो कर सकता है, और वेर एवर spouse and children's contribution are also legitimate contribution or eligible contribution for ATC. वहाँ पे clearly it is written that you can make the contribution in your name or your spouse name or children name. But wherever it is not written, then only it is in the name of the person who is making the contribution. ठीक है. So now if I take an annuity plan of LIC की there are a lot of annuity plan where I have to make contributions for 15 years. Then I will get certain amount in return from the 16th year or so. Okay, and there are a lot of plans like Jeevan Dhara plan, Akshay plan. There is a certain notified plans also. Notified में कौन से हैं? I remember checking one. एक टाटा AIG का easy retirement plan है, और ICICI का immediate annuity plan है. So there are a lot of plans which are notified. Now as a student, more than as a student, now as a taxpayer, whenever you're making such contributions or investments, ask questions whether this is eligible for ATC deductions or not. In the policy document itself, it could be written that this is eligible for ATC deduction. And you will see the premiums would also be made in a manner that it becomes eligible for ATC deductions. Okay. So these plans, when you will take, these are all the contribution which you are making every year to these plans are eligible for claiming deduction under section 80C. And do I have to remember the names? So as from this paper perspective, you don't have to remember certain names. You have to remember a wide list which is coming under ATC. Ma'am, how will I remember all these options which are coming under ATC? Simply just keep it as your daily practice. Life insurance policies, annuity plans of LIC, सुकन्या समृद्धि अकाउंट, PPF, ये सब हो गया. ICF, अभी हम धीरे धीरे we'll do more which you will get to know. ठीक है गाइस, बहुत सारे ऑप्शन है, अभी हम सिर्फ 10th पे पहुंचे. नोटिफिकेशन वाले आई टोल्ड यू द नेम. एक टाटा AIG का प्लान है इजी रिटायरमेंट, एंड वन इज ICICI का प्लान ऑफ immediate annuity plan. Okay? ICICI Prudential का प्लान. Then if you make certain investments in mutual funds, that are also allowed under as a deduction under section 80C. If you will make guys, please focus here. If you will make investments to certain notified deposit schemes of FoodCo, which is your housing authority, उसमें if you're making the deposit, that would be allowed. What is interesting, जिससे questions आते हैं, I'm going that in detail. One is tuition fees. This is not the tuition fees of your coaching or the tuition fees which you go in the evening. This is a tuition fees which is an element for the fees of a full-time education. कभी भी if you have seen that fees जो school का fees होता है or any university का fees which you pay, वहां पे guys fees में element is there. Multiple elements are there. One element is obviously the main element, which is tuition fee, which is made for the main purpose of education. Then वहां पे होगा there would be your extracurricular fee, bus fee, uniform fee, etc., etc. And this is the entire fee which you pay to the school. Okay. The element which is allowed as deduction is tuition fees. The element which is allowed as deduction is tuition fees. Tuition fee किसका? Any full-time education. Full-time education means कोई भी full-time education हो सकता है, like from 1 to 12, or university ka education or college ka education. Even nursery is a full-time education, or pre-nursery is also a full-time education. So when you are paying fees for the tuition, as in tuition component fee for any full-time education, guys, in India, for the children, this I cannot claim for myself, but for the children, if I'm paying, I will claim the deductions for the tuition fee for maximum up to 2 children. For maximum up to 2 children. So tuition fees for maximum up to 2 children for a full-time education in India is allowed as deduction under Section 80C. Next is repayment of housing loan, including stamp duty, registration fees, and other expenses. अब ये क्या है मैम? Guys, whenever you take a loan, उसमें होता है guys EMI, easy monthly installment. Each EMI has two components majorly. One is interest and another is principal, which is the repayment amount of the loan. ठीक है, interest component is eligible under for deductions under section 24 clause B. ठीक है, वो प्री इंटरेस्ट जो भी है, इंटरेस्ट अंडर फॉर कंस्ट्रक्शन लोन एक्सेट्रा. यहाँ पे द प्रिंसिपल component I'm talking about, and यहाँ पे भी the loan which I'm talking about is either taken for purchase or acquisition or construction of what? Of a residential property. Purchase or construction of a residential property के लिए whenever I've taken a loan, उसका principal payment is allowed as deduction under section 80C. Principal or loan amount deduction is allowed under section 80C. Suppose an EMI of 1 lakh goes every month. So total EMI गया 12 lakh का. अब out of 12 lakh, suppose initial years में interest ज्यादा होता है, repayment कम होता है. 4 lakh is for repayment of loan. So 4 lakh is eligible for deduction under section 80C, and obviously I can claim only to the extent of 1,50,000. Ma'am, do we get it basically for stamp duties, etc. also? Yes. Along with the loan amount, you will get the deduction for stamp duty, which you are paying on purchasing the house, or registration fees, or any other related direct expenses which you pay on purchasing or constructing the house. Simple, jaldi, I'm making you all these points so that you can understand it. अभी तक कोई डाउट? ये सारे ऑप्शंस आर अवेलेबल अंडर सेक्शन 80C, and from this you can invest in any amount, but in total you will get any of these particular options, and but in total you will get a deduction only to the extent of 150. No limit for tuition fee. समय शॉर्ट प्रशांत हर में मिलता है, ऐसा नहीं है कि समय शॉर्ट वुड नॉट बी फिक्स्ड इन लाइफ इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी. विशाली, ट्यूशन फीस का कोई अमाउंट एज सच नहीं है, वो 150 के उसमें ब्रैकेट में आएगा. Sanjana, when if the premium for the year exceeds the limit, it will be disallowed as a deduction. The whole amount of premium, or only to the, you will get the deduction only to the extent of 20%, 15%, or 10%, as the case may be. Other expenses, Harish, you mean something which is totally in the nature of registration fee or stamp duty fee by any other name, but which is done for purchasing the property, or any particular tax which you're paying at the time of purchasing the property. तो गाइस, अभी तक हमने क्या किया? हमने लाइफ इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम्स के बारे में भी वी डिस्कस्ड अबाउट पीपीएफ, वी डिस्कस्ड अबाउट एसपीएफ, आरपीएफ, we discussed about superannuation fund, we discussed about national savings certificate, we discussed about principal repayment of loan. Remember, you have to take that loan from bank and financial institutions only. We discussed about tuition fees, we discussed about certain annuity plans, ठीक है, and Sukanya Samriddhi account. Okay, now we will move ahead. इसमें बहुत सारे हैं, but we will be covering now certain important one. Then is subscription to certain equity shares. Sorry, guys. certain equity shares or debentures. ये कौन से equity shares and debentures की बात हो रही है? So equity shares and debentures are for companies. ठीक है, अगर मैं किसी कंपनी के equity shares and debentures में करती हूँ, then I will get the deduction. The answer is no. Certain equity shares and debentures of a certain company. Which company के shares and debentures में I have to subscribe? That is a public company, which is an infrastructure company and not general infrastructure company, but a company which is an infrastructure company and which is doing a business as per ATI 4. यहाँ पे लिखा नहीं है, but you can remember it. Basically, an infrastructure company which is either into your telecommunication services, either into developing any infrastructure facility, either is into developing any power generation, or either or distribution of power generation, or into industrial park. Do we have to remember, ma'am, this? No, you only have to remember that you are subscribing into shares or debentures of an infrastructure company. ये आपको बस generally बता रही हूँ कि कौन सा infrastructure company होता है. ठीक है? So if you're subscribing into shares of an infrastructure company, you will get a deduction under section 80C, shares or debentures. Then there are certain mutual funds. There is ELSS, equity linked savings scheme, term deposit. Term deposit क्या होता है, guys? Fixed deposits. So if you do any fixed deposit with a bank for at least of 5 years. Whenever you go to bank and you say that I want to get FD, the first question they will for sir kitna amount obviously and for what time. There is 1 year FD plan, 2 year FD plan, 5 year FD plan. So when I'm investing in a 5 year FD plan, so whatever amount I've invested for a 5 year FD plan, I will get as deduction under under section 80C. Similarly, if I go to post office and वहां का टर्म डिपॉजिट लेती हूँ, वो भी 5 years का होता है, आई कैन गेट द रिडक्शन अंडर सेक्शन 80C. Then just on the last line, guys, NABARD, नेशनल एग्रीकल्चर बैंक एंड रूरल डेवलपमेंट, ठीक है, उसके लिए उनकी बॉन्ड्स में इफ आई सब्सक्राइब आई कैन गेट the deduction under section 80C. Then there is senior citizen savings scheme. Now this is only for senior citizen where a senior citizen can invest in amount. Whatever a deposit is made by the senior citizen under this scheme is allowed as deduction under section 80C. यहाँ पे भी lock-in period होता है 5 years का. अभी सबकी lock-in period I will discuss, don't worry. And the last is NPS. Ma'am, NPS, so agar I know it will come at a later stage, yes. नेशनल पेंशन स्कीम है, उसमें दो टाइप के अकाउंट होते हैं, वन इज कंपल्सरी अकाउंट एंड वन इज वॉलंटरी अकाउंट. दिस जनरली सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉइज डू. सो इफ यू मेक अ कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन अंडर वॉलंटरी अकाउंट, you can claim deduction under section 80C. Okay. So if you see, this is the entire list of some 20 to 25 items which are available to make a investment or to make a contribution into to claim a deduction under section 80C, but only to the extent of 1,50,000. So all of these combined would be allowed as deduction under section 80C to the maximum amount of 150. Ma'am, suppose I have tuition fees of 1 lakh, I have PPF contribution of 1 lakh, and I have housing loan payment of 2 lakhs. So, ma'am, how will I decide that from where do I have to pick 150? No, you don't have to decide. You will first write that these are the options eligible for ATC and these are the amount invested during the year. Okay. Once they in total crosses 150, so the maximum reduction automatically it will pick only 150. ऐसा नहीं है कि it is picking from housing loan of 150 या 50-50 सबसे, वो total 150 automatically it will pick. But remember, guys, now these are all options which are available for investment. I could have done it in just a single list and yeah, I would have said, okay, yaad kar lo. No, I want you to be informed enough. Okay. So these are different options. But kya hai, guys? Inka lock-in period hai. What did I say? Lock-in period. Now, why there is a lock-in period? Why there is a lock-in period? So that people do not see. I told you these deductions are so that so that the government can make you people independent. Just for claiming deduction today, I'm saying I'm paying premium 1 year, then I'm doing something another year. No, I have to maintain these types of investment in continuity so that they can help me in future. Correct. so that they can help me in future. So lock-in period matlab either the contributions should be for that much time or the holding period should be for that much time. If it is not for a particular lock-in period, then whatever deductions I have claimed would become my income in the year of violation, and also I will not be allowed as deduction in that respective year. What are the lock-in periods? So if I talk about life insurance policy, LIC, I'll not write LIC, I'll write life insurance. So उसके लिए the premium should go for at least 2 years. And I cannot surrender that policy for at least 2 years. Matlab, I have to make contribution of premium in year one and year two. If I do not make the contribution in year two, so whatever deduction I've claimed in year one also will become my income in year two. So life insurance का lock-in period or minimum continuity period is 2 years. Similarly, ULIPs का continuity period is 5 years. 5 years तक वो पॉलिसी को लाइव रखना है. Similarly, if I talk about house loan repayment, अब वो बोलोगे कि मैम 5 साल तक हाउस लोन रीपेमेंट करना है. No, I mean to say the property for which you are claiming house loan repayment should not be transferred before 5 years. If it is transferred before 5 years, whatever deduction I've claimed for house loan repayment would become my income. So before 5 years from यहाँ पे from end of financial year in which possession was obtained. Guys, अगर मैं साथ साथ लिख सकती हूँ, so definitely you can make the notes also साथ साथ. I'll give you time also. ठीक है, हाउस लोन रीपेमेंट हो गया, यूलिप्स हो गया, लाइफ इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी हो गया. वो जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर कंपनी वाले इक्विटी शेयर्स थे, आई कैन नॉट सेल इट बिफोर 3 years. ऑब्वियसली टर्म डिपॉजिट्स का 5 years पीरियड है. सीनियर सिटीजन सेविंग स्कीम का लॉक इन पीरियड इज अगेन 5 years. So the policy should be kept live for so and so years, for so and so years to not make them income in the violation year. Okay, so this is all about section 80C, which has different types of investment options available, and NSSC can make investment in whatever option is suitable for him or her. एक बारी guys, quickly go through the list. कहीं पे भी doubt है, please ask. This is a summary also for quick reference. No, guys, Manohar. The education institution should be in India to obtain tuition fees का deduction. क्या नोट्स ऑब्टेन करूं इसमें? ये जनरल इंफॉर्मेशन है, बाकी समरी आपका यहाँ पे एंड में है. वेरी सैड. गाइस, ये सब कुछ जो बताया है ना, उसमें से ऑब्वियसली पेपर वुड बी ऑल अबाउट चेकिंग द लिमिट्स और द टाइम पीरियड एक्सेट्रा. But the information which we have discussed in past 15, 20 minutes or 30 minutes so is basically to make you ready to understand these in real life. That we don't make a fool of us by saying, oh, medical insurance, we are paying insurance, and you don't even ask the other person you what type of insurance it is to claim the deduction. Okay. It is for you to be informed. ATC में कोई doubt, guys? Any doubt in ATC? ट्यूशन फीस फॉर एनी फुल टाइम एजुकेशन। फुल टाइम का मतलब ये होता है गाइस, ऐसा नहीं है कि यू आर डूइंग एनी वोकेशनल कोर्स कि हाँ 2 महीने का समर कैंप कर लिया, और मे बी यू डन समर कैंप फॉर 2 मंथ्स, और 2 मंथ्स का कोचिंग क्लास फॉर गिटार हो गया, दैट इज नॉट ट्यूशन फी। ट्यूशन फीस फॉर एजुकेशन, it can be from government, it can be for private, it can be of a college, it can be of a university, any full time course। like full time course colleges में क्या हो गया, बीकॉम, बीबीए, सब फुल टाइम एजुकेशन है ना फॉर अ पीरियड। वो वो सारे कोर्सेज, क्लास 1, क्लास 2, क्लास 3, these are all full time। even nursery is also full time। I give an example of Vishali, ULIP मतलब unit linked insurance plan, whereby when I make a contribution as a contributor to a ULIP, I am making a contribution, it's a two-way benefit program where a certain part of contribution goes to investment, तो मार्केट बेनिफिट मिल जाता है वहां से, एंड सर्टेन टाइप्स ऑफ सर्टेन अमाउंट ऑफ कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन गोज टू लाइफ इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी, तो वहां से इंश्योरेंस कवर मिल जाता है। सो थ्रू वन टाइप ऑफ प्रीमियम और वन टाइप ऑफ कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन आई एम गेटिंग टू बेनिफिट्स, दैट इज कॉल्ड यूनिट लिंक्ड इंश्योरेंस प्लान। मनीष, हरीश, अविनाश, एनी डाउट? अविनाश का है ट्विन, ट्विन वाला केस, ठीक है। फर्स्ट 2 चिल्ड्रन का ही मिलेगा वहां पे ट्विन्स के लिए। ऑब्वियसली यू कैन से कि सेकंड बर्थ इज ट्विन, देन दोनों का मिल जाए। Exemption fit, exemption can claim as deduction. Shivana, no. You have to start saying, ma'am, any other deduction can be claimed from housing loan. Housing loan पे दो deductions है. One is under section 80C, which is for principal payment. One is section 24B, which is for interest amount. वहाँ पे यहाँ पे guys principal repayment actually में होना चाहिए to the particular part, in the sense कि क्योंकि एज आई टोल्ड यू 80C इज अबाउट एक्चुअल रीपेमेंट, 24B स्टिल आप अक्रूवल बेसिस पे क्लेम कर सकते हो। क्वेश्चन जनरली गाइस, अगर इंडिविजुअल क्वेश्चन बोलूं, बहुत छोटे छोटे चेक पॉइंट आता है। ट्यूशन फीस, वहां पे लिखा होगा ट्यूशन फी पेड फॉर स्कूल इन भूटान, यू विल नॉट क्लेम डिडक्शंस। LIC इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम डेफिनेटली कम। देन हाउसिंग लोन रीपेमेंट का रजिस्ट्रेशन फीस दिया होगा, यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट आई हैव टू क्लेम डिडक्शन फॉर इट। सो कन्या समृद्धि अकाउंट का दिया होगा, दीज आर द कॉमन वन। FD का अमाउंट इन्वेस्टेड इन FD दिया होगा, you have to claim deduction for it. These are the very common one which comes. PPF, RPF, all of that would be available. For the previous year, whatever you're making investment on the previous year, actually basis पे they that are allowed. Correct. Amount invested with the scheduled bank is allowed for deduction for FD. If you're Mitesh, if you're working in a private company and they are deducting PF as your contribution, you have to ask from them which PF it is. Is it an RPF or is it an URPF? In most of the cases, it is RPF, but वो आपको कंपनी से पूछना पड़ेगा at the time of joining. Do we have a recognized provident fund or do you have an unrecognized provident fund? If it's a recognized provident fund, automatically when they will be preparing your Form 16, which is when they will be deducting your tax on salary, they will give the deduction under 80C. Okay. So guys, let's meet after break. We will start with 80CCC and 80CCD and 80D. These are the three sections which are very important. 80CCD and 80D very, very important to cover up before we end today's class. So let's quickly meet after 10 minutes. Do have something to eat. Take a quick break. Relax for some time and be back. Thank you. So welcome back, guys. We were discussing section 80C in detail. Before break, we obviously discussed about what are deductions, how do we have to understand this particular chapter 6A, which is of Income Tax Act, the difference between deductions and exemption, and we started with 80C. I believe any of your question is left. Just one second. So if Prashant, you're making a deduction in URPF, if you're making a contribution in URPF, you will not get deduction under section 80C. If you when you're making deductions in RPF only, then you will get a deduction under 80C. But the point you have to understand is that whatever your employer has a provident fund, only in that particular uh, type of provident fund, you will be making a contribution. So if they have URPF, you cannot say ki, I will make a contribution in RPF. What option which you have is you can make a contribution in public provident fund, which can be opened by anyone. No. Shreyas, deduction is very good question. Shreyas asked, ma'am, when I'm making investments in post office or scheduled bank or for basically the fixed deposit, is the deduction available after the end of fifth assessment year? No. The deduction is available from the year when you make such particular investment. It is available in that particular year. Obviously, you'll not invest in every year of the fifth of those 5 years. So if today I go and take a 5-year FD deposit, I'll get the deduction today. As simple as that. But if I withdraw it earlier, then it would be reversed out. So जो बैंक अपना इंटरेस्ट काटेगा तो काटेगा, but the other part would be it would be reversed. चलें स्टार्ट करें. और कोई डाउट है गाइस? चलो ग्रेट. One second. Let me share the screen. Next section, which is available for deduction, is section 80CCC. Deduction in respect of certain pension funds. Guys, pension funds कौन से यहाँ पे भी see एक annuity plan हमने LIC के देखे थे, like न्यू जीवन धारा, your न्यू जीवन अक्षय एक्सेट्रा, जो ATC में अलाउड होते हैं, राइट. यहाँ पे भी there are certain LIC के pension funds जहाँ पे if you will make contribution, you will get the deduction under section 80C. यहाँ पे भी you have to make a contribution every particular year and you will get the deduction. 80CCC is not much in use, but yeah, this is again available for an individual who can claim the deduction for an amount which is deposited under the annuity plans of LIC of any or any other insurer of receiving pension. ठीक है. 115 BAC वालों को ये नहीं मिलेगा. Now we come to the most important one, which is section 80CCD. Deduction for contribution of pension scheme. Now this is something which has claimed the Raftar or claimed the talk of the town for past couple of years. NPS, National Pension Scheme or National Pension System, whatever you call is correct. मैम 80CCC में एलिजिबिलिटी इंडिविजुअल की है खाली, वहां पे भी लिखो मैक्सिमम अमाउंट 1,50,000. अभी I'll come to 80CCC also, if you all know, don't worry. अब 80CCD guys है क्या? Okay. Why do we all run for government job? Because the retirements are very attractive, because there is pension, correct? If you're working in a private sector, there is no chance of receiving pension from an employer. obviously. So government made a scheme public for all from 2014 onwards. Basically, this is a scheme called NPS, National Pension Scheme or Atal Pension Yojana. इसमें क्या है? You have to invest for certain years, and that certain years is up to 58 years of your age. Every month you make a contribution or annually you make a contribution. And once that amount is accumulated, then once you attain an age after 58 years, you get a lump sum amount. So you get an option whether to get a lump sum amount or then you start getting monthly pension. Okay, so it's a plan where I can start my own pension by making a contribution. There are two ways to invest. Either I can solely make a contribution as a self-employer, or I can ask my employer to start making the contributions. Then what will happen? He will give certain part of contribution and I will give certain part of contribution. So Atal Pension Yojana में क्या है? It's an amount which you invest every year for almost 58 years of your age, and then after retirement, you start getting a pension out of it. Okay. Now the question comes कि मैम कैसे contribution चलेगा? Simple सा केस है guys. NPS में I hope everyone please focus here. किसी को भी नींद आ रही है तो please 2 मिनट छोड़ दो. National Pension Scheme. में two ways है. You can make a contribution either through employer-employee, as in you can ask your employer, let's start my NPS account, and उसमें से monthly they will deduct the contribution or annually as and when decided. ठीक है? उसमें क्या होगा? Employer will make a contribution and employee will make a contribution. Simple. Then एक option है कि your employer is you are self-employed person, अब a salaried person हुई नहीं. Then what can I do? You can self-start your NPS account also. Not a problem in it. Now, what are the benefits? What are the benefits? Guys, यहाँ पे National Pension Scheme को समझने के लिए we have to understand the section which is there 80CC-D. 80CC-D में benefit मिलता है for National Pension Scheme. But यहाँ पे भी we will understand 3 subsections differently. One is 80CC-D subsection 1. One is 80CC-D subsection 1B. And one is 80CC-D subsection 2. जो 80CC-D subsection 2 है guys, that is यहाँ पे clearly बड़ा बड़ा लिख दो, available to 115 BAC also. ठीक है? Only 80CC-D subsection 2, not 80CC-D entirely. Now, what are these sections, ma'am? 80CC-D subsection 1 and 1B are for contribution made by the assessee, either as an employee or as a self-employed person. And 80CC-D2, as in 80CC-D subsection 2, is a deduction allowed for contribution by employer. तो ये सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयड वाले लोगों को नहीं मिलेगा. दिस वुड नॉट बी अवेलेबल फॉर सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयड naturally because only I am making a contribution. When a contribution is made both by employer and employee, then employer का contribution is eligible for deduction under section 80CC-D subsection 2, and employer का contribution is eligible for 1 and 1B. But if I'm making as a self-employed, then only 1 and 1B would apply. ठीक है, समझ आ गया? आगे बढ़ते हैं. Now the question is, मैम कितना डिडक्शन मिलेगा? प्लीज ध्यान से सुनना. 80CC-D subsection 1 talks about deduction for salaried employee or for other individual. For salaried employee, the deduction which would be allowed under 80CC-D subsection 1 is either 10% of salary or actual contribution, whichever is lower. Whichever is lower. 10% of salary or actual contribution. Salary यहाँ पे क्या आएगा? Same. Basic plus DA in terms of employment, that is of retirement benefits, plus percentage-based commission. Or actual contribution, whichever is lower. और ये 10% बन जाता है 14% if I talk about an employee who's a central government or state government employee. 10 would be considered as 14 if I talk about a central government or state government employee. If an employee is private sector employee, it is 10%. If an employee is a government employee, it is 14% of salary or actual contribution, whichever is lower. ठीक है. Other individual पे आने से पहले मैं contribution by employer पे I'm coming. Contribution of employer would be allowed as deduction under 80CCD subsection 2, which would be again 10% of salary or actual contribution, whichever is lower. And this 10% would be considered to be 14% if I'm talking about a central government or state government employee. Actual contribution यहाँ पे किसका गाइस? Employers का. So, abhi, I'm not talking about any of the limits. If you know, please hold your horses, okay? So, 80CCD1 and 80CCD2, मैम थोड़ा सा तो समझ आया. तो मैं आपको एग्जाम्पल देती हूँ CCD1 and CCD2 को समझने का. For example, a person is having a salary, basic salary of 10 lakhs. ठीक है? He makes a contribution to NPS, basic salary है, ठीक है भाई? He makes a contribution to NPS of, say, 1,80,000. And employer also make a contribution of 1,80,000. Employee का, employer का. ठीक है? ध्यान से सुनना. What will happen? I am what? I am the assessee who's an employee. Employer contribution would first become part of my perquisites under salary. I hope you all know that. Okay, under section 17, it would become my perquisite. So my income would be 10 lakh plus 1,80,000. Under salary minus 50,000 जो आपको करना है, ठीक है? Now coming to deductions. Deductions में क्या होगा? 80CCD 2 में I would get 10% of salary, which is 1 lakh और 180. तो कितना डिडक्शन अलाउ हुआ गाइस? Obviously 1 lakh. ठीक है, तो 80CCD 2 में अलाउड डिडक्शन हो गया 1 लाख. सो 180 ऊपर मेरा परक्विजिट बना एंड नीचे वही एम्प्लॉयर कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन का 1 लाख डिडक्शन अलाउड हो गया. सिमिलरली 80CCD 1 में गाइस क्या होगा? 1 lakh, which is 10% of salary, और actual contribution which is lower, which is 1 lakh. So यहाँ पे 1 lakh का डिडक्शन लिख लिया, all sorted. ये 80CCD 1 हो गया एंड ये 80CCD 2 हो गया. कोई डाउट गाइस? नो. ठीक है. अब अगर यही बात if I talk about from a perspective of a person who does not have a salaried income, he is basically a self-employed person. अब उसको NPS start करना है. Obviously, a self-employed person would also attain an age where he would not be able to work. He also needs some retirement amount, correct? So he opens an NPS account as a self-employed person. Now, what is the deduction allowed to them? For a self-employed person, the deduction is actual contribution of assessee or 20% of gross total income, whichever is lower. Actual contribution or 20% of gross total income. अब यहाँ पे आप बोलोगे कि मैम ये सही नहीं है, यहाँ पे तो 20% मिल रहा है और gross total income. So I will say यहाँ पे 20% इसलिए मिल रहा है because when I talk about from an employee perspective, who is a part of a company where both employer and employee is contributing, वहाँ पे दो contribution मिल रहा है. 80CCD 1 में भी and 80CCD 2 में भी 10% of salary here and 10% of salary there also. But when I talk from other individual who does not have salary, तो यहाँ पे इसको सीधा 20% of the gross total income कर दिया. So मैम ATCCD 1 में कितना डिडक्शन मिलेगा? So suppose I talk about Mr. X. Person who is Mr. X is a self-employed person. He has a gross total income of say 15 lakhs. And the actual contribution he makes to an NPS is 180. Exactly same. So यहाँ पे guys 20% of gross total income would be 3 lakhs and actual contribution is 180. तो कितना डिडक्शन मिल गया? You will say कि ATCCD 1 में qualified amount is 180. Correct? No problem. अगर यही उनका actual gross total income would have been instead of 1 lakh 50, let's say it would have been 8 lakh. So the amount would have been 160 or 180. You will say कि मैम 180 ATCCD 1 में करेक्ट. तो ये 180 160 हो जाता, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. अब ये क्लियर हो गया. ATCCD 1 and ATCCD 2. ATCCD 2 is only for employer contribution. It is allowed for 115 BSc person also. ATCCD 1 is for self contribution. If I'm making as a salaried individual, then 10%. If I'm making as a other than salaried individual, then 20% of gross total income. कोई confusion here. And then why 1B is there? What is 1B about? So 1B, why it is there is to understand that there is one problem. There is one problem. वो प्रॉब्लम क्या है? सेक्शन 80 CCE. Section 80 CCE is a section which is a restricted section. वहां पे कुछ benefit नहीं है. It just says that section 80 CCE limits an amount of deduction. What is the limit? It says that 80C plus 80 triple C plus 80 CCD 1, only one, subsection 1 cannot be more than 1,50,000. तो एक तो 1,50,000 सबका इंडिविजुअल लिमिट तो है, बट these three sections together cannot be 1,50,000. So suppose I have ATC में eligible amount as 1 lakh for say LIC life insurance policy. Then suppose I have tuition fees of 80,000. तो मैं ATC में इसको कितना लिखूंगी? 150. ठीक है. सिमिलरली इफ आई हैव ATCC में एक पेंशन फंड जा रहा है मेरा LIC का, जिसमें द कंट्रीब्यूशन इज 40,000. सो ये ATCCC में 40,000 आ गया. सिमिलरली ATCCD 1B में, सॉरी 1 में, I made that chart of actual contribution or 10% of salary. If I talk about salaried person, suppose actual contribution is less and that is coming to 120 suppose. तो ये सब मिला के अब ATC में 150 आ रहा है, ATCCC में 40 आ रहा है, ATCCD 1 में 120 आ रहा है. All this combined would be allowed as total deduction from gross total income because of the restricted sections of ATCCE as only 150, as only 1,50,000, or which extra would not be allowed. So how to do such questions? First you have to do ATC का आराम से अपना करो, ATCCC करो, ATCCD 1 करो. When you come to the outer column, which is the main column where you have to reduce it from the gross total income, then वहां पे 1,50,000 at max होगा. Got it? अब I was coming back to the story that why 1B was introduced. What is the use of 1B? As if you want to take a screenshot of it, please take it. If you want to write it, please write it. Why 1B was introduced. The 1B, अब problem क्या हुआ? Because of it, क्या हुआ? ATCCD or say NPS is a very, not very old part. It's just a couple of years back or a decade back that NPS was open for everyone. अब हुआ क्या? Everyone was already having commitments under ATC. Commitments मतलब everyone was having a future commitments through LIC, through PPF, etc. So they were not lured to make an investment in NPS. Why? Because already 1,50,000 तो ATC से पूरे हो रहे थे. So why would I invest more? Because I will not get the deduction. Maybe okay. Why would I do that? So to make NPS more attractive, they give additional 50K as deduction under 1B. This is not to be merged with 80CCE wala limit. This is additional 50,000 allowed as deduction for the contribution made by a person. So that's why I kept it under the same bracket that this is for the individual's contribution. So 80CCD1 and 80CCD1B both combined can give me a benefit of 2 lakhs. Can I say that? Can I say that both combined can give me a benefit of 2 lakhs? So 80CCD1B is an additional deduction section which is not to be merged with the limit of 80CCE. Let me tell you how. In this example, where the actual contribution was 180, please listen, where the actual contribution was 180, but 10% of salary was only 1 lakh. 80CCD1 में कितना किया मैंने डिडक्शन कितना क्लेम किया 1 लाख का बट गाइस मैंने कंट्रीब्यूशन तो 180 का किया है ना द रिमेनिंग आई कैन क्लेम इन 80CCD1B फॉर 50,000 फॉर 50,000 सो 1 लाख यहाँ पे क्लेम हो गया और 50,000 यहाँ पे क्लेम हो गया अदर वे टू डू इज now since 80CCD1B is an independent limit of 50,000 and it will not be merged with the combined limits of 80C and 80CCC. The best way to do is first use your 80C1B completely. First use your 80C1B completely. Then whatever contribution is left, compare it with the salary and get the deduction. Ma'am, नहीं समझ आया? Simple. मैंने actual contribution कितने का किया? 1,80,000 का. ठीक है? As an employee. 50,000 straight away I will claim under 80CCD1B. 50,000 straight away I will claim under 80CCD1B. Now kitna bacha actual contribution 130. Now I will compare it 130 with 1 lakh which is 10% of salary. Whichever is lower that I will take. That I will take. Okay. मैम आप बोलोगे कि आंसर दोनों में सेम आ रहा है इस क्वेश्चन में 1,80CCD1B में आ रहा है and 50,000 is coming under 80CCD. Sorry, 80CCD1 में 1 lakh आ रहा है 50,000 is coming under 80CCD1B. Let me give you another example, which is of this guy. Who is a self-employed. अब यहाँ पे guys carefully see यहाँ पे क्या हुआ 20% of GTI is coming to 3 lakh because his gross total income was 50 lakhs. 20% comes to 3 lakhs. Actual contribution is 180. So यहाँ पे 180 आपने पूरा का पूरा you claimed it under 80CCD1. But now when this would be combined with the limits, the maximum 150 would come. So the best option here would be optimal option would be, this is not wrong I'm saying optimal option क्या होता first as a person I should have claimed 80CCD subsection 1B में 50,000. Then अब remaining actual contribution कितना बचा 130. ठीक है. Now this combined with 130 combined with 20% of gross total income which is 3 lakhs 130 आता. Now this 130 would be eligible for deduction and if any deduction is there under 80C combined would be eligible for 1,50,000. So इसमें क्या हुआ I am able to claim 50,000 here and 130 here. But अगर मैं option 1 जाती I would have only be able to claim only 180 पूरा का पूरा under 80CCD1 but वो eventually would combined with other limits 80CCE में जाके सिर्फ 150 मिलता. But in optimal option which is option number 2 what I was able to do I was able to claim 50,000 1B में पहले पूरा फिर जो actual contribution left हुआ उसको compare किया तो 130 आया. So 130 हुआ suppose I have 80C or 20,000 so that 130 plus 20 combined करके I am able to claim 150 together. But if I would have taken this approach I would have been only able to claim 180 under 80CCD1 And that would have gone with my 80 का limit if any, and 80 CE में I would have hardly claimed 150. So इस तरीके से you should understand that how optimally a person can use 80 1B. So now to give you quick recap of NPS, National Pension Scheme is a pension yojana. Atal Pension Yojana का question आया, National Pension Scheme का question आया, it's one and the same thing. Where if I'm a salaried individual, then employer and employee both contributes. If I'm a self-employed, then only a person contributes. Can claim deductions for different contribution. For self-contribution as an assessee, I can claim deduction under 80 1 and 1B. 1B may I get additional 50,000, but 80 1 gets combined with other sections and the maximum allowed is 1,50,000. But how to do it? 80 1 may the deduction which is allowed is 10% of salary or actual contribution, okay? And 80 1B is without condition additional 50,000 of the actual contribution which I'm making. If I'm an other individual, as in if I'm not a salaried employee, I will get 20% of gross total income as deduction or actual contribution as deduction. 80 2, which is also allowed for 115 BAC person, is on the contribution made by the employer. So if I'm a self-employed person, 80 2 would never be there. But if an employer is making contribution, so first it would be taken as my salary under section 17, and this contribution of the employer would be eligible as deduction under 80 subsection 2 at 10% of salary or actual contribution, whichever is lower. Now coming to the self-contribution as an employee, my first part is, suppose I'm an employee. First, I will do the limits of 80 1, which is comparing 10% of salary and actual contribution, and 80 1B. So technically, what I should do, whatever is my actual contribution, first take full 50,000 in 1B, then remaining actual contribution, I will compare it with 10% of salary. Whichever is lower would be my eligible amount for 80 1. Then what will I do? I will pick up 80 double CE and I will put all the amounts there of 80C, 80 triple C and 80 CCD 1. उसमें से total को करके if it is more than 150, the maximum which would be allowed would be 1,50,000. Simple. Got it? So this is all about understanding NPS. We will do one question to get a more detailed understanding, which is illustration number 5. So the basic salary given in this question of Mr. A is 1 lakh per month. He's entitled to dearness allowance of 40% of basic salary. 50% of dearness allowance form parts of the retirement benefits. He contributes 15% of basic salary to NPS, and employer also makes a matching contribution. Explain the tax treatment of the so and so under assuming that he has not opted, he has shifted out from the default tax regime. Simple. Okay. Would your answer change if the person is there under default tax regime? So अब इसको हम कैसे करेंगे? सबसे पहले guys, everyone please focus here. First thing I have to understand that what is the salary, what is the actual contribution? Actual contribution is 15% of basic salary. 1 lakh into 12 lakh of 15%. So the actual contribution coming to is 1,80,000. Correct? Without guys? No. What is the salary for the purpose of 80 CCD? इसमें आ गया 1 lakh plus 40,000 or 50%. So 20,000. और commission तो दिया नहीं. So 1,20,000 into 12. So salary is 14 lakh 40,000. ठीक है? ये salary आ गई. Now let's do 80 CCD 1. 80 CCD 1 में and 80 CCD 1B. So सबसे पहले simply I will take the amount under 80 CCD 1B for 50,000. ठीक है? सबसे पहले simply I will do that. अब कितना actual contribution बचा? 130. So 130 and 10% of salary which is coming to 1,44,400, 1,44,000, तो कौन सा लोअर हुआ? 130. So 130 under 80 CCD 1 and 50,000 under 80 CCD 1B is the actual optimal contribution. No doubt you can guys do it like which is not optimal for me, but वहां पे आंसर गलत नहीं होगा. डायरेक्टली आप पहले वन करोगे और उसमें आप कंपेयर करोगे 180 विच इज माई एक्चुअल कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन वर्सेस 144. तो यहाँ पे 144 आएगा एंड देन रिमेनिंग 1,44,000 एंड रिमेनिंग 36,000 को आप यहाँ पे क्लेम कर लोगे बिकॉज एक्चुअल कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन से तो ज्यादा यू कैन नॉट क्लेम. बट यहाँ पे प्रॉब्लम क्या होगा? यू विल गेट वेरी लेस स्कोप टू प्ले विद एटीसी to get ATCCE maximum 150. So this is for me is an optimal one. But again and again, I'm saying if you do this also, this is not wrong. This is not wrong, but this is an optimal one because here you will have maximum tax savings. ठीक है? So how to do ATCCD वाला question? सबसे पहले 1B में 50,000 ले लो. उसके बाद जो एक्चुअल कंट्रीब्यूशन का हिस्सा बचता है whatever is left उसको compare with the 10% of salary and that is the lowest one would be your answer under 1. And similarly 80 CCD 2 का कितना डिडक्शन मिलेगा guys? 10% of salary or actual contribution which would be 1,44,000 would be allowed under section 80 CCD. ठीक है? Simple. And if a person is claiming 115 BAC, then only 80 CCD 2 would be allowed. Guys, कोई doubt under NPS? एक बारी quickly go through it. कहीं पे भी कोई confusion है, I'll explain. I've given the summary also. Just take a deep breath and do the illustration if there is any doubt. Take 2 minutes. Take Nagarju, take your time. You want to make notes, don't worry. Manish, non-government employees can also make investment into NPS because तभी तो इसे public किया था. ये अविनाश, अगर वो 5 साल के बाद मुझे इंटरेस्ट एफडी का मिलेगा, it would be taxable. देवराज, which section? Interest on FD is taxable as income from other sources. ATC में सारे contributions आएंगे which we have discussed. सुभाश्री, ATCCD सबसेक्शन 2 किसके लिए? सिर्फ एम्प्लॉयर कंट्रीब्यूशन के लिए. ठीक है ना? इन दिस केस एम्प्लॉयर कंट्रीब्यूशन भी कितना है? 1,80,000 मैचिंग कंट्रीब्यूशन है. ठीक है, सो 180 और 1,44,000. अब 1,44,000 कैसे आया? इट केम थ्रू सैलरी का 10%. अब सैलरी कौन सा? बेसिक प्लस डीएनएस अलाउंस और रिटायरमेंट बेनिफिट. सो 14,40,000 का 10% comes to 1,44,000. So 144 और 180 which is lower? 180 और 144 में कौन सा lower है? 144. So 144 is the reduction under 80 CCD2. I think what can help you guys is to take this particular thing as notes. It's a crux and it will help you understand it much better. 1.5 lakhs रोहन वो 80CCC में है। 80CCD1 में आपका 1.5 कहीं नहीं लिखा है। 80CCD1 में आपको बस यू हैव टू कंपेयर 10% ऑफ सैलरी विद एक्चुअल कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन इन केस ऑफ सैलरीड एम्प्लॉय और 20% ऑफ ग्रॉस टोटल इनकम विद एक्चुअल कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन इन केस ऑफ अदर देन सैलरीड एम्प्लॉय। ठीक है, वो आपका 80CCD1 का अमाउंट हो जाता है। दैट्स इट। नाउ द फाइनल कम्स व्हेन यू हैव टू सी 80CCE विच इज 80CCE। वहां पे आप 80C भी देखोगे, 80CCD1 भी देखोगे, 80CCC भी देखोगे। With all of them together cannot be more than 150. Okay, this is how you have to do it. That's why I wrote it specifically here that you will pick up the contributions of each and then you will see कि वो कितना। अब जैसे 80C में मैंने पहले 80C का 150 बना लिया, करेक्ट, सबका इंडिविजुअल कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशंस लिख के। 80CCD1 का 120 निकाल लिया, 80CCCC का 40 निकाल लिया। देन व्हेन आई केम टू 80CCE टोटल इसको 150 कर लिया। Without guys, Devraj, if you will ask questions for the topic which have not been covered, I would not be able to answer it. I'm so sorry. You cannot ask for 80 TTB and everything. Please go with the flow. 80CCC का खुद का 150 है, 80C का खुद का 150 है, 80CCD1 का वो 10% ऑफ सैलरी और एक्चुअल कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन विच एवर इज लोअर है, देन ऑल ऑफ देम कंबाइन करके 150 भी है। 80CCD subsection 2 is not to be considered for 150 definitely. It is independent, उसमें बस वो सैलरी का चेक है, 10% ऑफ सैलरी और एक्चुअल कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन विच एवर इज लोअर। गॉट इट? और कोई डाउट अंडर 80CCD? अब मैम इससे अमाउंट जो मिलेगा एज पेंशन वो टैक्सेबल होगा, करेक्ट? जब वो पेंशन जब भी मिलेगी, when you retire, when you are age of 60, every month you will getting that pension, that would be definitely be taxable. There is no doubt on that. The question which should come in कि मैम अगर क्लोजर करना हो अकाउंट का, प्रीमेच्योर विड्रॉ करना होगा अकाउंट का, then what has to happen? If we have to do a premature withdrawal, ma'am, what we have to do? So यहाँ पे you can simply make a note of it. It's a very simple thing to remember. Section 1012A talks about closure of account. Closure मतलब जब आपने you have made full contributions, now you want to close the account. उस केस में guys 60% would be exempt and 40% would be taxable. And if the person whose fund was this dies and nominee gets the amount, then nothing is taxable. Okay. Up suppose I have made a contribution for 58 years. Now I don't want pensions. I want the entire amount altogether. So I will close my account and whatever amount, suppose I've received 20 lakhs, then out of that 8 lakhs would be taxable and 12 lakhs would be exempt. ठीक है, दिस इज रिटन इन 1012। ये 80CC का पार्ट नहीं है। अगर I don't want to close the account, but I want to make a partial withdrawal. उस account में already there's a sum of 20 lakhs, but I don't want to withdraw 20 lakhs. I want to make a partial withdrawal of say 10 lakhs. Then what will happen? Then up to 25% if the withdrawal is made, then nothing is taxable. If the withdrawal is made up to 25% of the amount which is there, then nothing is taxable. So can I say I can withdraw up to 25% and nothing would be taxable? Correct. See, closure का हो गया और partial withdrawal का हो गया. So suppose I want to close the account. But close it, I'm not withdrawing the amount, I'm transferring that amount into my provident fund. Or I can say it vice versa, not provident fund. Suppose I'll write it like this. Yeah. तो सपोज एक तो ये चीज हो गई, क्लोजर हो गया, पार्शियल विड्रॉल हो गया. सपोज मेरे प्रोविडेंट फंड में some money is there, in my RPF some money is there, and I'm transferring that money to NPS account. ठीक है. अब क्या हुआ, आरपीएफ में तो आफ्टर 5 years of continuous सर्विस आई कैन विड्रॉ इट, करेक्ट. सो आई एम ट्रांसफरिंग दैट मनी टू माई एनपीएस अकाउंट कि ये ठीक है, ये भी मेरे पेंशन फंड में ऐड हो जाएगा एंड आई गेट मोर हैंडसम पेंशन, करेक्ट. सो दिस ट्रांसफर इज अगेन नॉट टैक्सेबल. This transfer is not taxable. This is it about your NPS. ये 10-12A में about the withdrawal amount, about the withdrawal amount. We doubt from NPS, guys? Basic salary, DA of retirement benefits plus percentage based commission, correct. ये हर जगह यूज होता है. This is used for provident fund, this is for HRA, this is for all exemptions and measure except RFA and payment of gratuity fund, जिसका अलग अलग है. Now, we move ahead to the last section today and the most important section, which is section 80D. बहुत लोगों को, if many of you know what is 80D, it is again not available to 115 BSc. Agniveer pe I will come. Many of the person do not know that 80D में सबको लगता है कि it is only for medical insurance. No, it's a lot more than medical insurance. So let's discuss. 80D is for again insurance coverage for medical treatment. That's not a doubt on it. Life insurance 80C, medical insurance 80D. But how to remember, ma'am, what are the deductions here? इसको हम अच्छे से सिंपल से तरीके से करेंगे, guys. Please focus, everyone. ETD is majorly insurance का exemption, medical insurance का exemption. This is available for individuals and HUA. ठीक है, इंडिविजुअल किसका मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस कराएंगे? यहाँ पे सेल्फ, स्पाउस, डिपेंडेंट चिल्ड्रन मतलब पीपल, स्टूडेंट चिल्ड्रन हु आर not earning and are dependent on the parents, dependent children. Okay, and parents का. And HUF में क्या होगा guys? HUF में HUF will claim reduction when they are doing medical insurance or premium for members. ठीक है. So 80C में कहीं पे भी there are no parents. Parents are not covered under 80C. So if I'm making contributions for my parents' life insurance policy, that is not eligible. But if I'm making payment for my parents' medical insurance policy, that is eligible. ठीक है. ये चीज ध्यान से याद रखना. Now, the question come, HUF किसका डिडक्शन क्लेम करेगा? मेंबर्स का. इंडिविजुअल किसका डिडक्शन क्लेम करेगा? फॉर सेल्फ, स्पाउस, डिपेंडेंट चिल्ड्रन एंड पेरेंट्स. ठीक है. अब हम we will do for individual first. Individual के लिए guys, the deduction which is allowed is 25,000 plus 25,000. मतलब, so the deduction would be allowed for parents also. And for self, spouse and dependent children. मतलब 25,000 for my immediate family, 25,000 for my immediate family means self, spouse, dependent children, and 25,000 for my parents. So suppose I'm paying medical insurance premium for myself for 30,000. So I will only be able to claim 25,000. If I'm paying premium for medical insurance premium for 30,000 for me and 30,000 for my parents, then I would be claiming 25,000 for it's my wala limit, and 25,000 for my parents wala limit. ठीक है. So total हो जाएगा 80D में 50,000. Simple. But what all are allowed? 25,000 is for my limit, and 25,000 I additionally get for my parents' limit. So if I'm making contribution for their insurances, I will get additional 25,000. Okay, simple. But guys, if साथ you get medical insurance premium, no doubt on that. What all you get, whatever premium you're paying for medical insurance, whatever premium I'm paying for medical insurance, that would be covered. So medical insurance ka premium amount would be covered. Every year you have to pay the premium for medical insurance. So suppose I say ki I'll get a health coverage of 4 lakhs. So 4 lakhs pay whatever premium I want. I'm paying. Suppose 4 lakhs ka premium are the 10,000. Okay, at my age, 10,000 comes. So 10,000 would be allowed as deduction. Premium, guys, should be paid in any mode other than cash. Other than cash. तो पेरेंट्स के लिए इंश्योरेंस पे किया तो वो 25 ब्रैकेट में जाएगा एंड खुद के लिए इंश्योरेंस पे किया तो वो 25 ब्रैकेट में गॉट इट इसके साथ गाइस आई गेट डिडक्शन फॉर सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट हेल्थ स्कीम कंट्रीब्यूशन सीजीएचएस सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का हेल्थ स्कीम होता है दिस इज ओनली फॉर द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉइज हु enroll themselves, their spouse, and their children in the scheme, and they have to pay a certain contribution to the CGHS. That contribution is allowed as deduction. That contribution is eligible for deduction under section 80D, but वो खाली self वाले case में मिलता है. Parents के लिए if I'm making a contribution for CGHS, that is not allowed. So parents के लिए only medical insurance is allowed. ठीक है? Guys, उसके अलावा one more thing is there that is called preventive health checkup. Everything is coming under the limit of 25, 25 respectively. Okay. Preventive health checkup. And that is allowed in combined of 5,000. 5,000, but it should be within that 25, 25 wala limit. मतलब preventive health checkup के लिए I can claim in combination of 5,000, and this guys can be paid in cash also. Ma'am, you'll be like, what is preventive health checkup? Preventive health checkup, guys, क्या होता है? See, two problems होती है. One is if a person goes ill, get a treatment in hospital, then his treatment would be covered through medical insurance. But every time you do not need to have a treatment. Sometimes you do health checkups so that any mishappening can be prevented. So this is called preventive health checkup, like your diagnosis, like your regular visits to doctor, blood tests, etc. So whatever kharcha you're making during the year on such test, on such medicines or on doctor visit, that is allowed up to 5,000 and can be made in cash also. Naturally, it can be made in cash also. So 5,000 total है. 25,000 की limit में भी and parents की limit में भी total 5,000 only I can spend in preventive health checkup. And last thing, which is not written anywhere, but which is allowed as deduction is medical treatment expense. Up, please, everyone focus here. Medical treatment expense. Guys, this is not for anyone. This is only for a medical treatment expense of a senior citizen not having insurance. Not having insurance. अब ये क्या है मैम ये ट्विस्ट क्या है सो सिंपल सा गाइस इसमें under section 80D in general you do not get deduction for medical treatment as in जो खर्चा हुआ whatever expenditure happened on the treatment in the hospital that is not allowed. What is allowed is premium amount. What is allowed is premium amount. Correct. But guys, what happened, a lot of companies do not do medical insurance of senior citizens because obviously वहाँ पे risk factor is enough because senior citizens would have more treatments, would have more health risk as compared to a younger person. So they don't do insurances of senior citizens, or if they do, that is on a very high amount, on a very high premium amount. So what happens अब उस case में where a senior citizen does not have an insurance, where a senior citizen, and by senior citizen I mean resident senior citizen, who does not have an insurance, उनका medical treatment would be allowed as deduction. उनका medical treatment would be allowed as deductions. But condition is that they should not have an insurance. So suppose a senior citizen has an insurance. Suppose a senior citizen has an insurance, uska medical treatment would be allowed as deduction? No. Only for senior citizen who does not have an insurance, uska medical treatment would be allowed as deduction. So that is allowed for both parents wala category also and myself wala category also. But the moment, guys, remember, I told you 25,000 for self and 25,000 for parents. But the moment any person in this category or in this category is a senior citizen, then additional 25,000 would be allowed. Additional 25,000 each would be allowed. Any person is a senior citizen. So suppose here my father is a senior citizen, my mother is not a senior citizen, so the parents limit would be increased to 50,000. So instead of 25,000, now the ceiling limit is 50,000. So the insurance premium amount, preventive health checkup, or medical treatment, all in combined should be can be claimed up to an extent of 50,000. These are maximum limits, guys. Okay. Now suppose I am 60 plus, my spouse is not 60 plus, my children are not 60 plus. So again, still यहाँ पे this limit 25 would be taken up to 50K, would be eligible up to 50K. So that means where the ceiling limit in general is 25, 25 for self, spouse, dependent children, 25 for parents. But any of the person is senior citizen, the limit gets increased by 50,000, by 25,000, and it's increased to 50,000. So suppose my parents are senior citizen, I am not a senior citizen. So parents ke liye I can claim deduction up to 50,000. For myself, my family, as in my spouse and children, I can claim only 25,000. If I am also 60 and my parents naturally are 60 plus, then dono ke liye I can claim 50-50. Dono ke liye I can claim 50. So the maximum deductions which can be claimed in the ATD would be 1 lakh if the self person is also senior citizen and the parents are also senior citizen. Or I can say the maximum deduction which can be claimed under ATD if parents are senior citizen and I am not senior citizen is 75,000, which is 50 for them, 25 for me. Or the maximum deduction a person can claim under ATD if no one is senior citizen is 25 for parents and 25 for self, which is 50,000. Okay, got it? Up. Let's do a question to understand it more clearly. Come, everyone, please jump to. If you want to make a chart of it, please make a note of it. You can take a screenshot of it also. यहाँ पे भी अच्छे से वैसे दिया हुआ है guys. ठीक है, अब एक क्वेश्चन करेंगे उससे और क्लियर होगा. गाइस, इन रिलेटिव्स के अलावा किसी का भी डिडक्शन वुड नॉट बी अलाउड. डिपेंडेंट चिल्ड्रन हैज टू बी मेंशन क्लियरली. अब इलस्ट्रेशन 7 पे गाइस वी कम. बिफोर 7 लेट्स डू इलस्ट्रेशन 8. 7 8 दोनों करते हैं, ठीक है? टाइम इज देयर, डोंट वरी. इसको करने का बेस्ट तरीका क्या है? पेरेंट्स के लिए अलग लिखो, खुद के लिए अलग लिखो, and only you will be able to solve it easily. Everyone, illustration 7, please. So Mr. A, aged 40 years, paid medical insurance premium of 20,000 during the previous year 23-24 to ensure health as well as health of the spouse. Okay. So 20,000 Mr. A की family वाले में चला गया, ठीक है? Okay. He also paid medical insurance premium of 47,000 during the year for insurance of his father. ठीक है. Okay. 47,000 parents category में चला गया, no problem. Absolutely okay. Who's not dependent on him? Face. Does not matters. Children dependent होने चाहिए. Parents dependent हो ना हो. Parents are dependent or not. Does not matter. He contribute 3,600 during central health government scheme. ठीक है, ये भी allowed हो गया under his category. Okay. He has incurred 3,000 in cash on preventive health checkup of himself and his spouse and 4,000 by check for preventive health checkup for himself. ठीक है. So 3,000 by cash allowed हो जाएगा and 4,000 for father भी allowed हो जाएगा. But guys, एक problem है. Okay, I'll come to that. ये दोनों का मिला के 5 से भी ज्यादा नहीं होना चाहिए. I'll come to that also. और क्या है? Compute the deduction. ठीक है. So ये 3,000 तो allowed नहीं होगा guys. Why? Because पहले तो इसको ऐसे करते 20,000 allowed, 3,600 allowed and ये maximum 1,400 can only be taken to make it 25. ठीक है. And यहाँ पे 47 and 4 यहाँ पे 4 नहीं होगा. यहाँ पे maximum 3 can be allowed to make it 50,000. Right? Because the father is a senior citizen. So total deduction कितने का आ गया? 75,000 का आ गया. ठीक है, तो 1,400 यहाँ पे ले लिया, 3,000 यहाँ पे ले लिया, तो इट इज अप विद इन द 5,000 वाला लिमिट. सो दैट्स ऑल्सो ऑल कूल, which is also written here. In this case, the total deduction allowed on account of expenditure on preventive health checkup, that is spouse father, is 4,400, which is the maximum permissible limit of 5,000. 5,000 दोनों का combined है. Again and again I'm saying. ठीक है, कोई डाउट नहीं. सॉल्व हो गया, हो गया, इजिली सॉल्व हो गया. कोई प्रॉब्लम गाइस? Okay, now we come to a question which is illustration 8. Illustration 8 is very interesting. Okay. Mr. A, age 40 years, paid medical insurance premium of 22,000 during the year for the health of his spouse and dependent children. So 22,000 खुद की किटी में आ गया. ठीक है, सेल्फ एंड स्पाउस वाला किटी में, सेल्फ स्पाउस डिपेंडेंट चिल्ड्रन. एंड यहाँ पे आ गया अदर्स की किटी में, अदर्स नहीं, पेरेंट्स की किटी में, सॉरी. ठीक है, 22,000 खुद के लिए किया. He also paid medical insurance premium of 33,000 during the year for mother who is 67 years. ठीक है, so 33,000 mother के लिए does come here, no problem, perfect. Then he incurred 20,000 for his father, age 71 years. Can he incur? Yes. Who does not have medical policy, that is also eligible. ठीक है, that is also eligible. Then he contributed 6,000 to CGHS. यहाँ पे आ गया 6,000 guys. Compute the deduction. पहले तो guys to do it is write all the eligible amount. अगर कोई नॉन कैश है उसको लिखोगे, कैश वाले को हटा दोगे until unless it is preventive health checkup. ठीक है, write the total eligible amount. अब वो टोटल कितना हो रहा है यहाँ पे 28, so it is restricted to 25. Similarly यहाँ पे टोटल कितना हो रहा है 53, but it is restricted to 50. So यहाँ पे भी the maximum deduction allowed is 75,000. Simple. And if questions like the 115 BAC has been opted out, very good. If the question is silent, you will write that I am assuming that 115 BAC is opted out. और HUF को कितना मिलेगा? HUF को guys इस पे भी आएंगे, बट पहले इंडिविजुअल्स का क्लियर, कोई डाउट? एनी डाउट फॉर इंडिविजुअल? Documentary proof, Shivana, whatever deductions you are claiming, whether in ATC or up to ATU, wherever it is investment or expenditure based, you have to maintain the premium receipts, you have to maintain the hospital ka bill if the insurance is not there, preventive health checkup ke liye 5,000 tak ka bill you have to maintain. अगर दो ब्रदर्स हैं, दोनों ने अपने पेरेंट्स का इंश्योरेंस लिया है, नो प्रॉब्लम, दे कैन टेक, अ पर्सन कैन हैव मल्टीपल medical insurance policy. I can have a medical insurance policy in which I am paying the insurance amount. I can have a medical insurance policy from my office also covered, not a problem. So ब्रदर जो वो प्रीमियम पे कर रहे हैं उसका डिडक्शन लेंगे, और दूसरा ब्रदर वॉट एवर प्रीमियम दे आर पेइंग उसका डिडक्शन विल बी टेकन. 50,000 is the maximum limit when any person in either of the parents category or the self-spouse dependent children category is a senior citizen. दोनों का senior citizen होना is also not जरूरी. Suppose mother is 58 and father is 62, then also parents के लिए maximum I will get is 50,000. And father and mother दोनों, mother-in-law, father-in-law कहीं पे भी नहीं है guys. Hitesh, I hope your question is answered. वाइफ इज अ सीनियर सिटीजन बट स्पाउस इज नॉट, तब भी 50 अलाउड होगा. वो जो उस पूल है ना, उस पूल का लिमिट 50,000 हो जाता है. अमाउंट रिसीव्ड इन मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस नॉट इंक्लूडेड. अमाउंट रिसीव मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस में नहीं होते वैशाली. मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस में आपको ट्रीटमेंट का खर्चा मिलता है, दैट टू हॉस्पिटल गेट्स इट, और समटाइम्स यू गेट एज अ रीइंबर्समेंट व्हेन यू हैव पेड फॉर इट. A person can have one policy also for parents and individuals, children going on, but generally policies अलग अलग होती है, parents की अलग होती है and spouse and dependent children and self की अलग होती है. In case you have not maintained separate policies, do it from today. 25K in general is increased. It's not 25 plus 25 दोनों senior citizens के लिए, नहीं. The the pool increases from 25 to 50 if any one or all are senior citizens. So quickly to revise, an individual in HUF में खाली they claim a deduction of insurance premium या preventive, only insurance premium का ही deduction मिलता है. ठीक है, या वो वाला मिलता है आपका मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट ऑफ सीनियर सिटीजन का. ठीक है, नाउ केयरफुली लिसन. Premium by paid of insurance, premium by way of CGH, contribution by CGHS or preventive health checkup का डिडक्शन मिलता है 25,000 फॉर सेल्फ स्पाउस डिपेंडेंट चिल्ड्रन एंड 25,000 इन केस ऑफ फैमिली, 25,000 इन केस ऑफ पेरेंट्स. ठीक है, अगर कोई भी पेरेंट सीनियर सिटीजन है तो वो 25 का 50K हो जाता है. एंड सिमिलरली अगर सेल्फ स्पाउस डिपेंडेंट चिल्ड्रन में से सीनियर सिटीजन है तो 25,000 का 50K हो जाता है, द मैक्सिमम डिडक्शन, और दिस इज अ मैक्सिमम डिडक्शन. इफ एक्चुअल प्रीमियम्स आर लेस, ऑब्वियसली विल गेट दैट एज अ डिडक्शन. सिमिलरली एचएफ के केस में भी अगर वन ऑफ द फैमिली मेंबर इज सीनियर सिटीजन तो वो 50,000 हो जाते हैं. प्रिवेंटिव हेल्थ चेकअप का मैक्सिमम 5,000 इज अलाउड for both parents and self category. It can be in cash mode also. It can be in cash mode also. But if either self spouse dependent children or your parents, whosoever is senior citizen and do not have an insurance, उनका मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट का खर्चा is also a lot, but again, that has to be in that 50,000 wala limit. That has to be in that 50,000 wala limit. Sometimes people, what they do, they pay premium for multiple years altogether. Then you have to claim it proportionately. Suppose I paid a premium of 5 years, so and I've paid in one go. So 1 divided by 5 every year, that would be the eligible premium amount. ठीक है. एक अग्निवीर वाला रहेगा. We'll start it in the next class. Why? Because I want to tell you about what is अग्निवीर rather than just telling you what is the deduction amounts. Any doubt, guys? Kahin pe bhi. So today we started about understanding what is deduction, what is the difference between deductions and exemptions, what are the points you have to remember in case of deductions, whether return filing is compulsory or not. Then we moved on to understanding ATC. We understood all the different types of 2025 options which are available under Section ATC, and we understood that the maximum deduction allowed is 1,50,000 for individual HUF. Whether resident or not, there are certain deductions which are not, there are certain options which are not open for investment for HUF but are open for investments for individuals. ATC में individual, spouse and children are covered. Spouse may be a dependent or not, does not matter. Tuition fees only for children. Small sort points to remember. Sukanya Samriddhi is only for girl child, and other points of lock-in period which you have to remember, along with life insurance policy का वो 10%, 20% या 15% वाला limit. Then we moved on to understanding 80CCC, and we moved on to understanding 80CCD, which is for contribution to NPS, where there are three subsections, 80CCD 1, 1B, and 2. 1B may deduction is for to the limit of actual contribution or 10% of salary or 14% of the salary, or 10% actual contribution or 20% of gross total income if a person is not a salaried individual. You have to compare it. That would be your 80CCD 1, along with additional deduction under section 80CCD 1B. 80CCD 2 is only for employer's contribution, which is first taxed as perquisite and then is allowed as deduction under section 80CCD. Subsection to the extent of actual contribution or 10% of the salary, as the case may be. 80CCD subsection 1 along with 80C and 80CCC total cannot be more than 150 as per section 80CCE. Then we moved on to understand section 80D, which talks about in general medical insurance premium for individuals and HUF. Here you, along with insurance, you have other things also covered: preventive health checkup, contribution to CGHS, and treatment of a senior citizen if he has no insurance. Just remember, parents के लिए separate 25, individuals के लिए individual self, that is self spouse, and dependent children के लिए separate 25. If any is the senior citizen, this 25 increase to 50,000. Okay. Got it. Preventive health checkup 5,000 allowed in total combined, can be allowed in cash mode. Otherwise, everything should be non-cash. So this is all for today. Please do all the illustrations which have been covered up. Prepare a small notes. Hardly 1 hour would be taken to revise everything which have been done today. So see you in the next class. Any doubt, please ask. Preventive health, Rasmita, as told, is amount which is spent on just to ensure कि कोई medical treatment बढ़ा ना आए, like doing self diagnosis, doing health checkups, blood tests हो गया, और doctor visits हो गया. That is called preventive health checkups. Okay. All ATC and ATD, whatever discussed, is allowed on actual contribution, actual payment basis. You have to do it within the previous year. It's not before the due date. You have to do it by 31st of March. So this is a high time where everyone will be making such contributions. Mitesh, 25, 25, additional 25 when any of the as a senior citizen. As simple as that. Thank you so much, Almas. Next class, we'll start with 80CCH, which somehow in covering ATD, I skipped it. We'll do it with 80CCH, which is a very good new section for Agniveer. Okay, guys, see you in the next class. All the very best and have a great year ahead. Wish you all a very, very, very happy new year. Thank you.